Hello and warm welcome, the audience, to New Generation Women, and I'm Janine van Zenos. Let me tell you a story. As you know, I love telling and sharing stories because I think we learn so much from them. And this is not a best of Janine story, absolutely not. So yesterday, I flew from Hamburg to Munich. It was late night. It was kind of awkward. Nobody was on the airport. At the airport, we had no masks. And I didn't want to have any masks, but I felt, well, you like to have a mask if you go to the airport and fly. We were only 10 people in the airplane, and everything was kind of spooky, like almost like a ghost city. Some foreign people, group of foreign people were there, and they were wearing masks. And if you wear black masks, it looks really awkward. Doesn't look, doesn't look comfy. Doesn't look gentle. It just looks scary. And in that situation, and I have freshly torn ligaments, so that came on top of it, but I dealt with them pretty good until Corona took so much speed and accelerated all our growth processes. I had my suitcase. I couldn't carry so much. So I went to my flight company, and I asked them, could you, a suitcase of that size, but still, if you have torn ligaments, you have rucksack here, another bag here, and a suitcase of that size. So I asked them, could you please kindly take that suitcase and check it in? And the young guy with his newcomer assistant, I think, next to him, said, absolutely not. I said, look, I'm really in a kind of emergency situation. I have torn ligaments. I have to carry so much. Could you be so kind? And he said, no, not with, if we would have 180 or 120, I think 128 people, then I'm allowed to do this, but I'm not allowed to do this. And I were already so tense, and everybody would just follow rules. And he said, this is not normal. I said, look, sweetheart. Because he was such a young man of entitlement, and I just am not good with them anyway, but I was particularly not good yesterday evening. And I said, well, sweetheart, is it possible that I can see your boss? Because I think this is really ridiculous. And he said, absolutely not. And I said, well, absolutely yes. And he said, I am the boss. I said, you're a little bit too young, way too young to be a boss. Maybe one day. And my voice got really louder. And then he called his boss. Of course, he asked, you know that when people ask questions, he asked in a way that, of course, his boss on the phone would say no. He didn't. And I said, look, this is an emergency. Can you tell your boss? So he didn't make any effort. And then he said, well, we can check it in, but then you will pay 60 euros. I said, this is ridiculous. I have changed my flight so often. We are in a kind of an emergency situation globally. I'm asking you for 7 kilos suitcase to check it in because I freshly torn ligaments. And then the lady next to him, she got really pissed. And I got so angry. I got so loud. I mean, my nerves were just really blank. And then I said to her, I said it pretty calm, still determined, and still, not in my best version. But I said, well, maybe you like to, she said, you just can roll it. Well, you can come with me, and then you can kindly roll my suitcase. And she said, I'm not your slave. So I got really loud, and she said, well, why don't you call the police? Got totally out of hand. And I was really vulnerable after that. I could have cried. I found that such a horrible situation, and a complete nut situation, a situation where we should come together. Now I think to myself, you should just show up differently, Janine. You should just don't come so aggressive. So I almost tried to, didn't accuse myself, but I saw that there was also, two to tango. There was also kind of tension and aggressiveness within me that's why the situation escalated. Then I go to my airplane, and there are the stairs, and I couldn't carry all my little bags at once. So there are 3 big, tall, young, muscular, strong men. And I know already, I say to them, look, don't get crazy. I'm leaving here my little suitcase outside of the airplane because I have torn ligaments. I cannot carry everything at once. So I will go up and I will go down again unless you like to help me. And I think if they could have shot me, they would have shot me, because they were so these are not the rules. Like you leave an unwatched suitcase in front of the stairs of the airplane. And I got so upset. I got so upset because I thought like, oh boy, here it comes again. Now the next big argument is going to happen. And I didn't say anything. I just said to them, just stay there. I go up, I come back. So they didn't take the suitcase, none of them. They stood there in front of my suitcase. The suitcase is here, and they were standing there. None of them would do. They were just looking irritated, angry, because that would be beyond the rules. And then the stewardess on board, she would be so lovely, and she helped me with my bags and put them, above the seats. And I said to her, look, there are 3 men downstairs. I didn't help at all. And she said, don't even think about it. So that happened. There were very strange people in the airplane. Everything was so tense. And I could see that I had brought a lot of tension in the last week. So in this week, I said, one of the most important things is you have downtime. I took myself the luxury, and I do have a luxury. I know that people who do have kids, and when husbands and wives are working at home, it clashes very often. I knew they would clash definitely with my partner. So I asked him, let's not see each other for a few days. And we haven't seen each other already for 2 weeks. But I really knew this was very important, that I find back into my center and switch everything off. No music, nobody, nothing. And just in that silence, working the stuff off that needs to be done, doing everything in my home to make it comfy and sweet and warm. And in that period of unwinding and silent, I almost in a blink of an eye felt myself again, and I felt it shifted. And I felt like, okay, if you show up now, if you go out and show up, you will show up as a different person. But you didn't show up because you have more information. You didn't show up because you have more toilet paper. You didn't show up because you try to find a way how to make money if you're self-employed and your money is not coming in. It looks as if you will have no income. These are so scary questions, but you don't find and hear any answers of the part that's much bigger than you are, than we are. And I call it the wisdom part, and I also call it the presence of love. But there's absolutely no connection. I knew if I'm disconnected to that part, that's actually the suffering. But if I find a way to connect myself again to this, this bigger universe, you can call it God, or you can call it Buddha, whatever your language is, and I call it the presence of love, that's when I know I can unwind, I can relax, I know I'm okay. That doesn't mean that I'm exhausted, or that doesn't mean that questions are not running in my head. But the minute I find a way to connect again with that part in me, that's when I know, yeah, life freaks you out, but now you know you can deal with that. And this is what I wish for you. So stay healthy, stay in a strong spirit, and be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. People are overreacting, and so do we. So just unwind, retreat wherever you can, maybe nature, and just connect again so that we can come back into a centered place, and from there act more instead of being in a nutcase. Have a beautiful rest of your day wherever you are. Bye-bye. Take good care.